Alright, this is Sarah. Halloween is swiftly approaching, and I want to talk about the garb that I made for myself this year, because it's been on my to-do list, or my bucket list, for about a decade. I want to talk about the game Journey. Like, for the past 10 years, I have wanted to create the garb that the wanderer from Journey wears in the game. And it was with a little bit of love and inspiration from Rumi that I decided to finally do so. And I'm going to relate the two things in this video, because I, of course, have drawn my own parallels between them. So Rumi is amazing. I am very happy that the universe, through chance and circumstance, brought the poet Rumi to my attention. The algorithm was showing me their passages and poems in my feed, and eventually I correlated that they're all from the same person, and they were so relatable that I thought that the author was a modern author. And once I did a little bit of Wikipedia research, I quickly found out that Rumi is actually from the 13th century, the 1200s. Their work is 800 years old, but it still feels very relatable and relevant. And I think that's a very powerful thing to have done. Rumi was in kind of a profound influence in his community when he was alive. He was considered a mystic and a scholar and an advisor to people. Up until he was about 37, he had a pretty normal life doing what he did. There wasn't anything specifically notable about Rumi until he happened to meet a certain individual by chance. And if you know anything about Rumi, you know who this person was. This was their muse, Shams. Shams was a wandering dervish. They happened to be in the same town that Rumi lived in, which at this point was Konya in Turkey. And he got to talking to Rumi on the streets, and they hit it off. Shams was a little bit older than Rumi. He had a bit more life experience and had already developed this philosophy of his own, but Rumi, as a communicator, was able to channel all of this wisdom and knowledge that Shams had. The two of them together were sort of this creative powerhouse of influence and inspiration that went both ways. And that cycloned around for a while and was the result of a lot of really amazing writing that has transcended time and had a profound impact on my life now, which I think is really cool. The chance encounter of Rumi meeting Shams is very special to me because I personally can remember meeting specific individuals in my life that opened up a window inside my mind that changed me forever and thus shifted the trajectory of my entire life. I think that these meetings, these chance influences, our encounters, are what makes being human so exciting and special. And the game Journey, I think, reminds us of this by giving us an experience that reinforces that it's not about the destination, it's about who you go on the journey with. So Sarah's been learning about Sufism and Rumi and Shams and all of the philosophy therein. That's one container of my life right now that I'm operating in, whirling about. In studying Sufism, I started seeing a lot of Sufi artwork pop up on my feed via the algorithm, and some of which look vaguely familiar, like whirling dervish figures. That is to say, they have the large skirts, they're wearing flowing garb. They look very kinetic. They're in motion. And for whatever reason, there tends to be two of them. I immediately think, yes, this is Rumi and Shams. You know, it's the light and the dark. It's the two counterparts that complement each other so perfectly. But it also makes me think of something else. A little over 10 years ago, that game company released Journey. And I can honestly say that no other game that I've played in my entire life has had as profound an impact on who I am as a person and just my life philosophy in general. The experience of playing this game is something that I would carry with me throughout my entire adult life. I don't want to say a whole lot about it because if you haven't played it before, I don't want to in any way detract from that experience. What I will say, however, is that the character within the game, they do wander throughout the desert. They have on garb that is very reminiscent of what I now am familiar with as dervish garb. And since I've kind of viewed myself as this character my whole adult life, I decided that this is the time and place where I create my desert dervish journey garb. My goal in doing so is not to create like a verbatim cosplay one-to-one depiction. The character, while like human-like in stature, it's kind of an abstraction of a human form. It doesn't have shoulders. They don't have arms. They're very tall and lanky. My goal was to translate the character's garb into something that a real-life desert wanderer, like a Bedouin, might wear. I went to the fabric store and I picked out some linen in the colors that I thought were appropriate, both of which are kind of my favorite. Like I really, really like rust orange a lot. Linen is difficult to work with, but I did it. There weren't any major mess-ups in regard to doing that, so I'm happy with my results. I think I changed my mind on my interpretation of the costume several times. First it was a dress, which I had to modify after the fact, because once I put it on, I was like, actually I don't really want my arms to be seen or shown. So I collapsed the top portion up, turned it into a poncho, and then made the hooded cowl, which I could have gone the route of covering my whole face, but I kind of didn't want to, because I knew that I was gonna want to breathe a little bit. So I decided to have the scarf that the character wears wrap around my head underneath the cowl and cover up the lower portion of my face, as you can do with scarves. That's like what they're made to do. So I created essentially 3 pieces of the costume. There was the poncho, which was in the dark burgundy color linen. There was the scarf that has the symbols on it, but for me, in my case, just the gold trim. One side is tailored and finished, and the other is made to look torn, which is symbolic. And then there is the hood or cowl that goes over everything. And its cowl comes up to the top of the shoulders, and the hood comes to little points on the sides. They're very slight. They're not as pronounced as the character's kind of very pointy horns on the top of their head. But it's enough. You get the point. I used yellow crushed velvet for the trim on everything because crushed velvet, in my opinion, looks a lot like hammered metal. And that was the look that I wanted for the yellow portion of the costume. Like, I wanted it to catch the light and really glint and look kind of metallic. And I'm very pleased with how my journey garb came out. As of today, as of me talking to you right now, I have finished and I'm going to go run around in the yard wearing it just to see what that feels like. And I think that now that it exists, I will likely end up wearing it for the rest of the month, because when I have it on, I feel good. I hope you enjoy Halloween, or just the month of October and the beginning of fall in general. I guess you'd call this equinox? I don't know. The start of winter. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Keep making awesome stuff out there. Don't know if I said all that already, but I have to. It's the ending incantation.